Hello and welcome back. I am Cere'bror, and this is Cog Mind Magic, where we talk about video game characters and what makes them tick. And so, with that being said, let's get into it. In Red Dead Redemption 2, everybody talks about Arthur Morgan. And listen, I get it. Arthur is the sad cowboy king. The man coughs once and the entire internet starts crying into baked beans. But today we're not talking about Arthur. We're talking about someone younger, someone sharper than people give him credit for, someone with humor, courage, intelligence, and a future that never saw the light of day. We're talking about my guy, Lenny Summers. The young outlaw, the loyal friend, the smart kid trapped inside a dying gang. Lenny's tragedy is not just that he dies. A lot of people die in Red Dead. The game hands out death like a black church hands out a collection plate. I'm black, so I can say that. Lenny's true tragedy is that he was still becoming himself before his inevitable end. He wasn't some old outlaw who already had spent decades robbing, killing, and running from the law. No, Lenny was young, he was bright, he was curious. And in another life, he could have been so much more. So much more than just a body left behind by Dutch Vandelier's dream. So today we're looking at Lenny Summers, why he mattered, why his optimism was deeper than it seemed, and why his death feels like the future getting erased before it even got a chance to speak. Now, who was Lenny Summers? He is one of the youngest members of the Vanderlyn gang, but he never feels like just another fool with a gun. Lenny has a mind on him. He could read, which was very rare for a black person of that time. He was intelligent and is able to think on his feet. He jokes around and has the greatest sense of humor. He pays attention and knows how the world works. And in a gang full of loud personalities, broken egos, drunk philosophers, killers, thieves, and men who say, I have a plan. Right before ruining everyone's week, Lenny stands out because he still feels like someone with a future. That's what makes him different. A lot of the gang members feel like they've already accepted who they are. Bill is Bill. Micah is Micah. Dutch is already drowning in his own speeches. But Lenny still feels unfinished. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean he still has room to grow, room to change, room to become something greater. When you look at Lenny, you don't really see an outlaw, you see someone with potential hanging with the wrong crowd. Okay, so a little bit about Lenny and his backstory.
Her mama was picking cotton, didn't even know she was pregnant. Came over funny and she gave birth right in the field. And the goddamn overseer, he took my mom away and made my grandmama get up and finish picking. Overseer was sweet on her and used to rape her. After she was set free at the end of the war, he tried it again, and she killed him with a knife. They nearly lynched her, but she ran away, and my mama never saw her again.
Lenny's parents were born into slavery and became free after emancipation. And what is emancipation, you ask? Don't worry, I looked it up too. Thank you, school system. You've done me a horrible service. Or maybe that's on me because I was never the greatest student. Anyway, emancipation basically means the freeing of enslaved people. The Emancipation Proclamation was President Abraham Lincoln's order during the Civil War that declared enslaved people in the Confederate States to be free. And that connects to Juneteenth, the holiday that celebrates the end of slavery here in the United States. But freedom did not mean life suddenly became safe or fair. By the time Lenny was born, The chains may have been gone, but the country was still full of racism, violence, prejudice, and laws designed to keep black people trapped in a different kind of cage. His father taught him to read and write, and that detail kind of matters a lot because Lenny was raised with more than just survival. He was raised with dignity and respect. Someone gave him knowledge. Someone gave him self worth. Someone told him directly or indirectly, you are worth teaching. You are worth preparing. You are worth something. I'm investing my time in you. I believe in you. You can do it. And in the world of Red Dead, that's pivotal because most of the people in Vanderlyn's gang probably came from some kind of broken foundation, abusive parents, absent parents, families that failed them, ignored them, or never gave them the love and stability they needed. And it shows. When children survive that kind of upbringing into adulthood, they can develop trust issues, low self-worth, shame, attachment struggles, fear of abandonment, and a constant need to prove themselves. And the Vanderler gang is full of all that and more. So it makes sense that these people would end up together. Crime isn't the only thing that they're bonding over. They're bonding over trauma as well. Not only did Dutch build a gang, he also built a shelter for damaged people. But the problem is that shelter is slowly becoming another place where everyone just gets hurt. Lenny joining the gang automatically means he is fighting the law, but it goes even deeper than that. He is living in 1899 America, a time when racism was running wild and free. For the lack of better terms, racism was trending so hard that people could basically farm and be racist at the same time. So for Lenny, being accepted by anyone would have meant something, but being accepted by a gang filled with mostly white people probably felt like hitting the jackpot in that time in society. So, when Lenny becomes an outlaw, it's easy to judge him from the outside, but there's something complicated there. In a world that already hates him for the color of his skin, becoming an outlaw gives people a different reason to fear or hate him. And strangely, I can imagine that feeling almost empowering, like Lenny is taking back control of the narrative. Because now, at least in his mind, they don't hate him for simply existing, they hate him because he chose to become something dangerous. And they have to respect that whether they like it or not. But thrill chasing isn't the only thing on Lenny's agenda. He is just trying to survive mentally and physically in that crazy ass Red Dead world. So when Dutch's gang offer him family, protection, and purpose, of course that means a great deal to him. Dutch sells the gang a dream of freedom from society, government rules, and people who think they own the world. For someone like Lenny, that dream sounds, incredibly powerful. Dutch promises freedom, but the gang becomes just another cage. La cage with campfires, horses, and a whole lot of speeches. But where does Lenny's positive outlook on life come from? Even after everything he's been through, he still has a lightness to him. He was dealt with racism, violence, loss, and the pressure of surviving in a world that already sees him as disposable. A person like that could easily become cruel, numb, and angry at everything. But Lenny doesn't move through the world like Micah, who turns pain into poison. He doesn't move like Dutch, who turns pain into speeches and control. Lenny still has curiosity, humor, and warmth. That doesn't mean he is naive though. It's just that he refuses to let the world turn him into something ugly. His positivity may be confused with ignorance, but I think that it's way more than that. It's more about resistance and stubbornness. The world expects me to be this way, but I'm gonna show them type shit. And Lenny's humor is a part of that. When he jokes, laughs, and drinks with Arthur, one could think like, oh, he's childish. He's like, he doesn't really know what's going on in the world. But Lenny knows life is cruel, but he's not going to let that cruelty have the final word. Some people survive by becoming mean and shutting down, or becoming a control freak. But Lenny survives by keeping his spirit alive. And that's what makes his personality hit harder. He is young enough to believe in tomorrow, but not so sheltered that he doesn't understand the darkness. He has seen enough pain to know better, but somehow he still has hope. And in Red Dead Redemption, hope is a dangerous currency. People want it and hate it at the same time. And a line that keeps coming back to me. Lenny Summers' hopefulness didn't come because he didn't know how nasty the world is. He was hopeful because he refused to let the darkness become his whole personality like how the rest of the gang did. And that is the heart of Lenny. Dutch Vanderleer talks about freedom like he invented it. Every 5 minutes, this man is standing near a fire giving a speech like he's running for president of the Wilderness Committee. But Dutch's dream is dangerous because it sounds beautiful. But he talks about loyalty and being part of a family.
I don't have friends. I got family.
A better world for you and for me and the entire human race, because there are people dying, and if you care enough for the living, excuse me, wrong script. Rest in peace, Michael. But he talks about loyalty and being a part of a family and one last job, a place where they can all live free. And Lenny buys into that. At least part of the dream. And honestly, I mean, why wouldn't he? It sounds amazing. But the gang gives him something different. The gang gives him something the outside world refuses to give him. Belonging. Lenny would be considered an Oreo of his time, if you will. He's educated. Too educated even to even hang out with the local black population. Because remember, none of them read or write or understand big words. But too dark to hang out with any of the white folk. Because they're racist as hell. But Dutch is like, if you can help me get closer to my dream, you can hang with me anytime, any day. But Dutch's dream and his version of freedom comes with a hefty price. You have to obey him. You have to trust him completely. Because if you don't, you could end up dead. You have to keep believing even when the plan is bleeding out right in front of you. And that's where Lenny's story becomes tragic. Lenny was smart, but he was still young. And being a young man around a charismatic leader can be dangerous. We see that even in politics today. The ability to lead people is just one of Dutch's superpowers. He also, in a way, has the ability to absorb them. He uses their pain and turns it into loyalty. He manipulates their fear and turns it into obedience. That hope they all once had is fuel for Dutch's plans and ego. Dutch's train of thought is, these people believe in me. My dreams must be the best that they can even think of. So they are going to come true, and these people are going to help me do it. And Lenny, so he joins his gang, basically looking for safety. A young black man on his own won't last long in this time. But the irony is Dutch's family becomes the thing that leads him straight into the grave. Now we have to talk about Lenny and Arthur, because their bond is one of the best parts of the game. Arthur, he's a rough guy, he's tough. He's tired, he's sarcastic. He's built like he was carved out of guilt and tobacco. But when he and Lenny cut up, we get a different type of Arthur. We get the older brother Arthur, the goofy Arthur, the protective Arthur, the Arthur who still has warmth under all that gravel. And of course, we have to talk about the legendary salute mission. Lenny! I know what I'm talking about. On the surface, it's just two drunk outlaws making absolute fools of themselves. But underneath that, it shows us something really interesting. Lenny brings out life in Arthur. Survival, duty, violence, all that melts away when Lenny and Arthur are hanging. For a moment, Arthur isn't just Dutch's weapon, and he isn't a man slowly getting crushed by regret. He's just a man laughing with his younger friend. And that's one of Lenny's superpower, if you will. He gives Arthur something rare, lightness. In a game where the air gets heavier chapter by chapter, Lenny is one of those characters who makes the camp feel human. He makes the gang feel like a family before the game slowly reveals it's also a funeral in possession. Psychologically, Lenny's story can be read through three ideas: belonging, identity, and wasted potential. First, belonging. Lenny needed a place in the world, not just physically, but emotionally as well. The gang gives him that. It gives him people who knows his name. They ride beside him, laugh with him, fight with him, and mourn him when he's gone. People don't always join groups because the group is healthy. Sometimes people join groups because being alone feels a lot worse. And that's why cults exist. Second, identity. Lenny is still forming who he is. He's not just surviving the world. He's trying to figure out what kind of man he's going to become in it. But when your identity forms inside a violent group, your choices become slim to none. You start mistaking loyalty for morality. You start thinking that people who protect you are automatically good for you. And that trap is dangerous. Third, wasted potential. Lenny had the tools to become something more. He was intelligent, literate, observant, brave, funny, and young, but potential means nothing if the environment around you keeps feeding it to chaos. And what a tragedy that is. He had so many tools in his kit. In today's world, Lenny probably would have had a decent job, been in college, I don't know, investing in the stock market. But back then, he was doomed basically. A young tree planted in a burning field. And you know how hard that is to survive? Lenny's death is one of the most brutal deaths in Red Dead Redemption 2. Because, damn, that shit happened so fast. There's no big farewells or emotional final speeches. No dramatic pause where everyone gets to process it. He runs, he gets shot, he falls, and that's basically it. The game doesn't give you time to prepare, it just rips him from you. And that's exactly why it works so well, because death in Red Dead is not always poetic. Sometimes it's just sudden, ugly, unfair, and almost casual. Lenny dies during the St. Denis bank robbery escape. One of the moments where Dutch's dream actually starts collapsing right in front of everybody. And his death tells us something very important. The gang is no longer just losing money, it's losing its future. Hosea's death is the death of wisdom. Lenny's death is the death of youth. And when those two are gone, what the hell is left? Dutch's ego, Micah's poison, Arthur's regret, and a gang with no real soul left. Lenny was the literal soul of the gang. Soul, brother. And that's why Lenny's death is so important, because it marks the point where Vandelor's gang starts feeling like a family and starts feeling like a sinking ship with a lot of arguments. Lenny represents the future Dutch always talked about but never actually protected. Think about it. Dutch talks endlessly about building a better life, but who in the gang actually represents a future? Not Dutch. That asshole is trapped in the past, unable to pivot and get with the program. Hosea is a voice of reason, and he is wise, but boy, he is also tired. Not Arthur either. By the time Arthur understands the truth, his time is already running out. Lenny is different. Lenny could have lived. He could have become a leader, a thinker, a survivor, a man who escaped the outlaw life and built something of his own. But Dutch's dream factory only creates dreams, not futures. So, no, it consumes them. That's what makes Lenny's death so important, because it shows us the real cost of Dutch's favor And it shows us how racist everyone is, because why the black man had to die? People who trusted him deserve more than being dragged from one disaster to another, while Dutch hangs out at the camp whispering about Tahiti like it was some magical mango kingdom of salvation. Lenny is proof that Dutch's dream was never as noble as it sounded, because a dream that keeps killing the young is not a dream, it's a machine. When people say Lenny deserves better, it's because he is likable, and on top of that, he had the possibility of gaining a lot of riz. There's a special kind of sadness in watching someone die before they fully become themselves. That's different from watching a legend fall, Arthur Morgan dies after a life full of violence, regret, love, loyalty, and painful self-reflection. His death is tragic, but Arthur gets an arc. Lenny doesn't get jack squat. Lenny gets fragments, a few missions, a few camp conversations, a few funny moments, a few glimpses of what he could have been, and then he's just gone. And that's why he sticks with people so heavily, because our imaginations fill in the missing future. We wonder what he could have been if he survived. Could he have left the gang? Could he have built a real life? Could he have become someone Arthur would be proud of? Could he have broken free from Dutch's madness before it swallowed him? It could have been a great spin-off, Red Dead 3, Arthur and Lenny's Chronicles. We'll never know. We'll never know because he's dead. All right. Here are my final thoughts on Lenny Summers. I'm bringing it all together, so you might hear some things I've said before, but I gotta say it again. Lenny Summers is not the biggest character in Red Dead 2. We know this. He is what happens when a smart, young, hopeful person gets caught inside someone else's collapsing fantasy. He trusted the gang. He loved the gang. He gave himself to the gang. And the gang failed him. Some of the gang did love him back, and I think that's why he stayed. Arthur loved him. Hosea cared for him. And others cared for him as well. But care is not enough when your leader is driving everyone towards disaster. So when we remember Lenny, we shouldn't only remember the saloon mission, we should remember the young man behind the joke. The black boy who could read. The inventive thinker. The little bro figure. You could even argue that Lenny was the soul of Dutch's gang. Not because the story revolves around Lenny, but because Lenny represented the part of the gang that still felt young, alive, and hopeful. Psychologically, every group has a spirit, a center, a reason people believe the group is more than just a bunch of people surviving together. For Dutch's gang, Lenny was part of that spirit. He was smart, funny, loyal, curious, and full of potential. He had been through pain, racism, violence, and loss, but he still carried himself like someone who believed life could become something better. But in Dutch's gang, it's a criminal organization. We know this. It's one messed up ass family, a collection of people trying to turn trauma into purpose and wealth. And Lenny fits into that perfectly. He is young enough to still believe in the dream, but smart enough to question everything around him. He's not blind. He knows America is cruel as shit. He knows racism is real. He knows the law was never built to protect someone like him. But even with all that, he still finds joy. He still laughs and bonds. He still believes in people. That is why his death is so loud. It feels like death of innocence inside the gang itself. After Lenny dies, something, bright just disappears. The gang does not lose a good shooter. They lose one of the few people who made the group feel human and alive. Psychologically, Lenny represents a question at the heart of Dutch's gang. Can broken people build something better, or are they doomed to repeat the violence that broke them? Lenny seems like proof that something better was possible and on its way. He could have grown into something great. Only if he had lived. But that world, there's no room to breathe in that world. Not for a person like him. But instead, he ends up trapped between two dangers. a racist society, and a gang leader who sells dreams while leading everyone closer to death. He is the soul of the gang. I know this. I feel this because he shows us what the gang could have been at its best. Loyal, diverse, protective, funny, rebellious, and full of heart. But his death shows us what the gang actually became. Desperate, reckless, and swallowed by a Dutch's ego. Lenny was not perfect, no. He was still an outlaw. He was still bad to the bone. He still chose the gang. But in the world where every system was already against him, the gang probably felt like the first place where he could belong. That's what makes this story so sad. He found a family, but it's inside a burning house. And when Lenny dies, it feels like the fire finally reaches the heart of the home. And that's why Lenny Summers may be one of Red Dead's 2 most wasted pieces of potential. But that's just how I see it. And if you enjoy this character psychology, gaming stories, and looking way too deep into fictional people who ruin our emotions, make sure to stick around and come back again for more. And on that note, I'm going to give you the secret letter of this video, and drum roll please. It's a B! It looks more like a U, maybe it's a B. So I've already released 4 letters right now. 4 letters have been released, so check out my past videos if you want to know them. But for this one, it's V, and yeah, it's a phrase, and it's a phrase that has to do with the month of February, because that's when I started this whole thing. So anyway, and if you win, there is a gift card for you. So, and I'll let you know how you can receive it. But you have to put the comment down with the right phrase, and I'll tell you if you won or not. Okay? On this channel, we don't just play games. We study the ghosts they leave behind.